Hi, I'm Josh McGrath,
I'm Andrew Haas.
and this is the Ardent Pursuit Podcast. Welcome back. Over the last few weeks, Andrew and I have actually been traveling, so we haven't had a chance to be back here in the studio. So being here today is exciting because we're actually discussing how to ask a woman out on the first date.
It's gonna be good.
It is gonna be good. We're gonna get into the practice of that. And there are 5 areas that we've titled, all with the letter P, to help us kind of organize these thoughts. Here are the 5 areas. Number 1, purpose. Number 2, practical. Number 3, place. Number 4, potential. And number 5, parents. So let's dive in here with number 1, purpose. It's so important that for any man who's going to ask a woman out on the first date, that he understand the purpose behind why he's asking her out on that first date. It's something that he should be able to articulate, not just to himself, but to his authority and accountability.
Yeah, before he can articulate to her what his intentions are or what the idea is going forward, he needs to be able to stand in front of the mirror and be able to articulate to himself, okay, what am I doing? What's the goal here?
Now, there are so many nuances to this first point, to the purpose.
So varied.
Because depending upon your background, her background, how you guys got to know each other, the particular instances, there's 1,000 variables.
Yes.
And we're not going to examine every particular instance. We're really just trying to talk about general guidelines to keep in mind as you are pursuing a woman. And in this case, I think the key factor that we want to distinguish is the difference between maybe having known a woman for a while who maybe you're friends with, and you've lived in the same community, you've got the same friend circle, versus a woman who maybe you don't know as well, and a woman that you want to get to know. Because for the guy who already knows the woman, who he's known her for months or years, and they've spent time together in community and friend circles, maybe even in family home environments, you don't necessarily need to ask her out on a first date if you want to pursue her. There's no needing to get to know her better because you already know her pretty well. Versus the guy who maybe has moved to a new area or a new woman has come into his area, and he actually does want to be intentional about pursuing her. And so there is this idea of, well, I want to get to know her. So how am I going to get to know her? I'm going to ask her out on a first date.
Yeah, and that's one way to get to know her. And it's good to keep in mind, too, that there are other ways, and guys should be pursuing other ways to get to know a woman. But specifically in this case, how you ask her out on a date, or even to use a more casual term, even to ask her to coffee, to evaluate the potential. It's really important that a guy walk that out carefully.
There's a difference between just connecting with a girl over coffee that you've maybe known for years and are friends with, and wanting to pursue a woman romantically.
Yes, and even in the case where the woman, maybe you're friends with her for a while, and this is just another meetup in a long line of getting together and hanging out. Care needs to be taken because you never know, unless it's communicated, where she's at. She could be thinking, oh, maybe this is the time. Maybe he's now interested in me. And, the flip side of that is brand new.
Sure.
You're meeting her for the first time.
Yep.
And she could also be thinking, oh, maybe he's interested in me. So either way, either if it's the first time or the 10th time, you need to be mindful of what could be at play.
Yes, because when I even think about my own life, I've been friends with many women over the years, and it wasn't out of the ordinary for, throughout our history of friendship, particularly stemming from high school and on, for us to go and grab a cup of coffee or to grab a lunch every now and again. And so if I were to reach out to one of those women and be like, hey, let's grab a cup of coffee and catch up, that wouldn't be weird. But for the woman who I've never reached out to and gotten coffee with, if I text her and say, hey, let's go get coffee and catch up, there's likely going to be an assumption on her part that there's something more there that I want to initiate.
Which is fair too, because
Absolutely.
for the guy, a guy should not walk into these situations thinking we're just going to catch up or we're just going to hang out.
Sure.
That's not what this is about. Sure, maybe you do just catch up. Maybe you are just hanging out. But as the guy, that's not the mindset to carry forward, because the goal isn't just to hang out. The goal isn't just to catch up. That might be the first step, but you got to look down the road. You got to carry that forward. If this pattern continues, what's going to happen?
So the guy actually needs to be very clear in his communication to her with regards to why he wants to get together with her. And it's like, okay, how do I communicate that in a way that's not creepy, that's not weird, that's not off-putting, that doesn't freak her out?
Right. You're not too vague.
But you're not too forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to come on too strong, and it's like this awkward, nuanced thing. And I'm going to say this. The best way to kind of ask a woman out is to not ask a woman out. And what do I mean by that? By the fact that you should be in a community environment where you're getting to know her in a way where the first date isn't even required.
Yes.
You're actually able to just move right into asking to pursue her in a romantic way. That's the best way.
Yes.
Now, I understand that that's not going to be everyone's story. Sure. Okay. So you move to a new area, or a woman comes into your area, and you do want to get to know her. You do want to be intentional. There's a bit of a, okay, I need to ask her out on that first date. And so I think, there's 1,000 ways you could say it. I don't even know if we have an exact way that we'd recommend, other than be clear and don't be weird.
That's a great summation. And in that, guys will often try to communicate in a way that gives them a way out. And it's like, no, you got to own it. If things don't work out, or if things don't play out as you're expecting, your communication shouldn't be such that it could be interpreted multiple ways. As guys, we like to communicate in a way where we kind of hedge our bets or play it safe. Sure. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, it could be interpreted that way, but it also could be interpreted this way.
Yep.
And our goal is to not do that. Be clear, remove confusion, give her the best chance of fully understanding what the picture is.
I've heard you talk about this before, but the idea of the guy oftentimes will present the first date opportunity to her in a way where if she asks for either clarity on it or rejects it, he's able to pass it off as, well, I was going to that coffee shop anyways, or I just knew you liked coffee, so I figured I'd invite you along because, you're a coffee drinker. And so he kind of passes it off, and he doesn't take ownership of the responsibility to have purpose in that ask. And he's just a grown man-child at that point, right? Abdicating his responsibility. And so we are challenging and encouraging men to be clear and to be honest, but in a way that's not weird and doesn't freak her out.
Yes, and that's what a guy's got to figure out. That's part of the deal.
Yeah.
You got to move forward in a way that's appropriate, not creepy, not weird, but also clear. Mm-hmm. And that's what you spend time doing.
Yes.
That's what it's all about.
And if men need help figuring out how to have that conversation, or what the words are going to be that he's going to use to ask her, great time to pull in accountability and authority. This is why you have it, so that you don't have to figure that out in isolation and alone. Don't go to YouTube. Don't go to Instagram. Don't go to all those, relationship experts to find out what you should say. Because guess what? Every situation is different. Every woman is different. And so you want to conduct yourself in a way with integrity and honor. We'll get to this down the road here in a moment. But you want to conduct yourself with integrity and honor in a way where she feels flattered by the way you ask, and you feel respected by the way she responds, whether it's a rejection or whether she says yes.
Yeah, it's going to play out better for everybody, like you said, when you involve other people. Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't have other people, you got to get other people who know you, who know your life, know how you respond, how you conduct yourself. If you don't have people who can provide that input into your life, imperative that you at least try to have that play out.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So number 2, practical. Talk to me about that.
So practically speaking, nowadays there's a variety of ways you could reach out to somebody, right? Good old face-to-face. There's email, which is kind of old-fashioned at this point. There's texting, which is probably also old-fashioned. There's social media. So what's the best way to reach out to somebody?
That is the $1 million question. Something that I think about is when it comes to reaching out and initiating that communication with a woman, you want to pick a medium that is natural for both of you. So like if your primary form of communication has been talking face to face, either in a work setting or in a community setting, a friend setting, a church setting, whatever, a sports club setting, and then you text her, but you guys basically have never texted, that's going to be weird. That's going to send off all kinds of maybe red flags for her. She's like, wow, what's going on? Why is he texting me? So pick a mode of communication that you guys have used in the past. Apparently this next generation, they don't even really text. They DM each other and they use DM as texting. I'm like, there's actually an app native to your phone that allows you to do this. But apparently it's all the rage to go into your social media and then the DMs and communicate that way. So if that's the main form of communication, weird as though it may be, that you've had with a woman, well then use that form of communication. So I think that's the first thing to keep in mind when it comes to reaching out to a woman to initiate that first date.
And a guy also needs to keep in mind that he's got to fight the urge and the draw to be casual, and that's made much harder through texting and DMs.
I mean, what do you mean by casual? Unpack that idea for me.
We culturally are moving more toward shorthand, abbreviations, especially.
So don't use emojis to ask her out.
No.
Okay.
Don't
are GIFs okay? Can I use just GIFs?
No GIFs,
to ask her
no
out?
misspelled words, no shorthand.
We've just lost everybody at that point.
I mean, we got to have a whole lesson on how to communicate.
That's our
over
next
text.
podcast.
Yes.
Our grammar English podcast.
So important. Which, again, if you're face to face, you can't use emojis, right?
Sure.
You've got your real life emoji.
Yep.
You can't use shorthand. You better not be speaking in shorthand.
You better,
I got bigger
the
problems.
kids these days, I think that they do.
they might be,
I don't
actually.
understand what they're saying.
Yes. So when you don't do face-to-face or phone call, the other forms of communication inherently have more things you need to be aware of.
Yes.
And that's just going to be a bigger challenge for guys. So I would discourage that. Not that you can't do it. It's just harder to do it well.
Yes. So regardless of how you're communicating, kind of back to point number one, be clear about the reason why you're getting together. And so, you can't do that through emojis. You can't do that through GIFs. You need to use your words, and you want to be clear in those words. Also, don't be like overly prosaic, right? You don't need to write an 18th century love poem to her to ask her out. That is also weird. Maybe don't write it in the sky with an airplane. Again, weird. There's like guys are like, they fall into two categories of like not clear or weird. And I'm like, can we just be clear and not weird?
Yes.
Like that's a real we should have an entire course on that. Clear and not weird. It'd be a great course to have.
Yourself.
It would be. The other thing that I think when it comes to practically speaking, so you've initiated that conversation with her, that a guy needs to be thinking about is, all right, if we're going out to coffee or to a meal, am I paying for it all? Are we going Dutch? How's that working? And one of the things that I would personally recommend to any man who's asking a woman out on a first date is to not pay for her.
Okay. Why do you say that?
So the reason why I say that is because there is, I think, whether it's a cultural pressure, a perceived pressure, a personal pressure, I don't know necessarily what it is, but I think for a woman, when she goes out on that first date and he pays for her, I think it feels like a little bit of a pressure is now put on her. And I've heard women talk about this before, where there's like this sense of like, now I need to kind of return that favor. And I think a woman could potentially feel a bit of a pressure to maybe acquiesce and say yes to something more beyond that first date. Or to feel a sense of, well, now we need to go out for dessert so that I can pay for dessert. And maybe she doesn't want the date to continue on past that moment, but she feels that pressure. And I think one of the ways that you can actually honor and bless a woman in that moment is to leave as little pressure on her plate as possible. So she's able to just walk away, either saying yes or no without pressure. Now, beyond that moment, if she says yes, I think that's a different discussion. And I personally would then strongly encourage the man to pay for things moving forward when it comes to food and drink. But I think on that first date, it's low stakes. Make the entry as easy and as welcoming as possible for her. And being clear so that she understands the expectations on her and what your expectations are is just loving. It's kind. So if you are doing a dinner and say it's a sit-down place, being upfront at the beginning with the waiter that this is 2 separate checks now sets her up for understanding, okay, I'm paying for myself. So it's not like am I paying? Like as I'm ordering, is this something he's paying for? Like I'm uncertain, I don't know. And I've actually seen even on, again, social media, where many men will make videos where they're talking about how they can't afford to do any more first dates. And I was like, well, then you're doing it wrong.
Stop going to the steakhouse for the first time.
Yeah, and stop offering to pay for everything. Like, you aren't going to be able to afford to go on so many first dates if you keep doing that. And so again, set that expectation. The other thing that I think is important for men when it comes to just practically preparing for a first date is set a time limit on it.
Yes.
Don't have an open-ended time. I think communicate that up front to her. So I would say something like this. If I was communicating to a girl, and I would say, hey, I want to get together, for a first date or whatever, I would then say, are you free from 6 to 7 or 6 to 7:30 or 6 to 8? I would put a very specific time stamp on it, and I would make sure that myself, I am exiting that environment when that time comes. I mean, I would recommend for the first date, 60 to 90 minutes. Why? Because let's just say that you aren't hitting it off. And let's just say that she does now feel kind of uncomfortable in this date environment. It's not kind to trap her into a 6-hour dinner conversation where you're going to talk all about your action figures. All right? That's unloving. That is
We got bigger issues at that point.
That's unkind. She doesn't want to hear about how you live in your parents' basement and how you make your own cardboard pizza. Like, she's just not interested in that. So, it's not loving, it's not kind. And I know already the hater's going to say, well, what if it's going well? What if there is that chemistry? Well, if there is that chemistry, guess what? That will spill over into date number 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need to be like, in this one moment, I have to mine all the chemistry right now, so let's talk for 6 hours.
Yeah, you actually will do yourself a favor by being prompt. And if you end, even if things are going well, don't linger.
Yes.
Don't linger. Because what you want to do is you want to set things up well should there be a second time.
Yes. And you want her walking away respecting the way that you led that first date. Again, women are looking, most women, healthy women, godly women, are looking for healthy men to lead. And so when it comes to even a very first date, a man can lead well that first date by things like, here's what we're going to talk about. Here's who's paying, who's not paying. And here's how long we're going to be together. And then being a man of his word, not compromising, not saying, hey, let's get together from 6 to 7:30. And then at 7:30 being like, I guess I could stay a little bit longer. Things are going well. No, be honest. Be like, hey, I really, really enjoyed this. And in that moment, you can then ask, we're jumping ahead to a future episode, but in that moment, you can ask for a second date to follow up on that if you want. I don't want to get too far ahead here, but again, be prompt and give her the opportunity to not be stuck there for 6 hours with you.
Yeah, and we're not just trying to lay out a bunch of rules and a bunch of regulations. You got to do this, can't do this. We are proposing this is the best way. Walking these things out in this manner will give you the highest chance of things playing out well for you in the future.
Yes, exactly. And again, I'm going to reiterate it. The way that you conduct and pursue that first date should leave her flattered and you feeling respected.
Yes.
Regardless of the outcome.
Regardless of how it plays out. Because it should be a win-win. Either you learn through the process, okay, what went well, what didn't go well, and you carry that forward into the next opportunity, or it goes well and there's another opportunity with her.
Exactly. Now, we're getting to kind of point number 3 here, which is the place. And this really matters, again, as a guy, as you're prepping and planning for that first date. And this is something that you've got to communicate to her up front, is the location of where you're going to meet. And again, be clear, but don't be weird. So you'll get these guys who'll be like, I'm gonna plan out this unbelievable dinner on, the top floor of the tower with romantic music playing in the background, and we're gonna have champagne, it's gonna be candlelit, and it's like, oh my gosh, bro, you just set the stakes way too high. Get rid of the rose. Nobody needs the rose, all right? This is a first date. Again, low stakes.
Yes.
Set it up for success for her and you. And oftentimes guys think, well, women are romantic. They like this thing. Yes, women are romantic once they want to be romantic with you.
Yes.
Don't set up the first date where all the stakes are just total pure romance, because that's weird.
Not only is it weird, but it's actually, the goal is not to be romantic.
Yes.
Counterintuitively, you might have an interest or growing interest in somebody, but you actually don't want to lead with romance. You don't want to lead in a romantic environment. You're not there to create that. In
Yes.
fact, you should be doing the opposite,
Yes.
even if romantic feelings are growing.
Be anti-romantic.
Yes.
I need a shirt that says that now. I'm an anti-romantic.
There's,
Because I'm so romantic.
early on, you actually are trying to do the opposite
It's true, though.
of what you want to do.
It is true, because by doing that, you're actually inviting her into a space where she's able to calibrate her expectation and her interest in a safe and healthy environment. She's not entering into this pressured-filled environment where it's suddenly like, oh my gosh, look at all the money that he spent on this date or on me. And his expectation is like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get married and have 29 kids together and live happily ever after in a castle. She's not entering that first date that way. And what that does is that actually helps her be able to navigate her own feelings towards you, and actually likely will cultivate, by doing that, will help cultivate inside of her a deeper interest in you, versus her being repelled by you, or sketched out by you, or running away from you.
And what guys need to be aware of is that when you are in a curated environment, those are really special. But the challenge is, in those environments, you're only getting to know a very small part of who that person is.
Yep.
They are orienting themselves, they are responding in a way to that special environment. And that's really such a small part of who they are that you're really not getting to know who they are on a broader scale. And that's what you're trying to do. You want to know who that person is more holistically. And when you purpose to go with someone to a really special place, save that for down the road.
Yes.
That's not going to work early on.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you can't dress up for a first date. It just means that make the entry into that first date really low stakes. So a coffee shop is a great place to do that. Maybe a sandwich shop. Maybe grab a cup of coffee and go and sit in the park. Something that's not that high-end curated environment will set you both up for success. And one of the things that I know that men who are trying to be gentlemanly oftentimes will do is they're like, hey, well, let me pick you up. Let me pick you up at your place. And I'm like, I appreciate that. And if this were the 1950s and we lived in a safer world, I would absolutely recommend that he does that for the first date. But the reality is that's not the world we live in anymore. And so, gentlemen, while yes, be a gentleman, recognize the world that we live in. And so men shouldn't offer to go pick her up on the first date. If once you're in a relationship, absolutely do that. But for that first date, plan on meeting her at a location, and pick a location that's not a sketchy part of town. That's the other thing. Sometimes guys will pick a place that oh, I know this great restaurant, and it's in the sketchiest part of town. And you're like, nah. Now she's got to go there. Now she's feeling unsafe because she's in a sketchy part of town, and then they pick a sketchy time of day. They're like, hey, you want to meet at 5 a.m.? And I'm like, no, weirdo.
You show up in your hoodie with bed hair.
Yeah, exactly. Or how about we meet at 11 o'clock for drinks? I'm like, no, weirdo. The only people who want to meet at 11 p.m. have bad intentions towards me. And so it's men, be forward thinking, be kind, pick a time of day and a place and a location that she's going to feel safe in, where she's able to go and feel at ease and be herself, so that you actually get to know her, so she's not on her guard the entire time wondering, is someone about to kidnap me or do me harm?
That was well said. And number 4, potential here. A guy needs to carry forward the idea that there's always the potential for romantic development. Whether or not it's true for him or for her, you got to carry that forward, because there's the potential for romance to develop, and a guy needs to be watching out for that.
Right. And this is important because not just for the man who's going on the first date, obviously he has the hope of potential. That's what he's looking for. Hence he asked her out. This is important though for men who maybe just casually go out on dates with women. And they think, NBD, what harm am I doing? We're just going out for drinks. We're just going out for coffee. We're just going out for food. And he actually needs to be aware that in her mind, she might be looking at him in a certain potential kind of way, or he might begin to look at her in a certain kind of potential way. And it's not loving or kind to not be clear about those intentions. And so a man needs to just be aware, particularly a single man, needs to be aware that when he's spending time with a single woman, his default posture should be, there's potential here. Not potential necessarily towards marriage, not potential towards maybe anything good. Maybe it's potential towards something bad. But just being aware of that will then hopefully help dictate how he operates in those moments.
Yeah, and I would caution a guy against a lifestyle of meeting up with women, call it a date if you want, or just, hey, we're just friends, we're just hanging out. Okay, but as we said earlier, you've got to be purposeful toward that end.
Sure.
If you've got a lifestyle, if you have a habit.
Oh man, you're convicting College Josh here. College Josh is feeling very convicted.
Like, wow, to be more purposeful and intentional up front,
Sure.
and not just hang out or catch up with women, that's the real challenge. Because as guys, we like to build friendships.
Of course.
We'd like to grow deeper in friendship, at least we should. But when you're with a woman, what is the purpose of growing in deeper friendship, ultimately?
Yeah. And just one quick thing here before we move on to point number 5. If you do find yourself as a guy, being like, well, I like being friends with her, and that's why, we go out to coffee, and that's why we go out to dinner, and that's why we go out for drinks. I would say, okay, then maybe that's an indicator that you should be pursuing something into a lifelong friendship known as covenant, known as marriage.
Exactly. If you're like, oh, I really like spending time with her.
Yes.
We're just really good friends. We just get each other.
Yep.
I love spending time with her. Well, what is marriage other than a really good friend?
Yes. Ding, 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 ding. I think you found a potential mate. So absolutely, that's one thing that men need to be aware of in their lives. Okay, so number 5 here, parents. And this one is complex. It's not something we're going to fully unpack. We're going to kind of go over at a 30,000 foot level. But here's the general idea. For most of human history, the way that a young man would approach a woman that he's interested in is by going to her father and asking for permission. And that father would then set out the parameters by which that man may be able to obtain his daughter's hand in marriage. And we've seen that around the world in all cultures. And over the last, maybe 50, 100 years, there's been a growing retreat from those traditional values and approaches. Many people would say they're archaic, they're old-fashioned. Some would argue they're anti-woman. Now, I think it's interesting that as we've moved away from men going to fathers and asking for permission to marry their daughters or to date their daughters or to court their daughters, whatever word you want to use, we've seen an increase of divorce. We've seen an increase of broken relationships. We've seen an increase of unsatisfied, lonely women. We've seen an increase of dysfunction in our culture relationally.
Yeah, and while, we're not advocating necessarily to, we need to go back in time 200 years.
Of course not.
But what we are saying is that parents matter and their input matters, and on some level, they should be involved in some capacity.
Yes. When and how, it may look different from person to person. Again, we don't have time to unpack it all, but as a general kind of guideline, if she's living with her parents, and if she recently graduated high school, involve the parents before asking her out on a first date.
Yes.
All right. If she's an older woman in her late 20s or 30s or 40s, probably parents being involved will be much later down the road.
Yeah, and you might be able to make the case if she's older. Well, why do I need to talk to her parents? She's out living her life, doing her thing, and sure, that is certainly true. I would suggest, well, what's the harm? What's the downside if you actually did go get input from her parents?
Sure.
Very minimal downside.
Particularly because they know her well. And again, you would do that through her. You would talk with her about it and you would ask her input on doing that. It's not like you're circumnavigating her and saying, hey, like your opinion and you don't matter. It's just between the bros. We're going to talk about this man to man.
I'm the creepy stalker and I'm going to find your parents.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not advocating for that at all.
No.
It's going to be in conjunction with her.
Yes.
But again, that's for a certain type of woman in a certain season of life. And so that does matter. Parents matter. There's a biblical precedent for those who are listening who are believers. The Bible talks about in Ephesians 6 to honor your father and mother. And part of this idea of honoring is recognizing that they hold a special and unique place in your life, and they should be involved in that process. Now, again, we've mentioned this before. There's unfortunately just a lot of brokenness in families and relationally in life. And so sometimes a father won't be involved. Sometimes a mother won't be involved. Sometimes parents aren't involved at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but even think practically speaking, if you're interested in a woman, you want to get to know her, part of that process, we've touched on this earlier, is that you talk to the people around her. Talk to her friends. Talk to her pastor.
Yep.
Talk to older women in her life, her mentors.
Yes, there's other authority, quote unquote,
right,
that you can pull in.
So, and what we're suggesting is that parents, on a very basic level, are another form of this.
Yes.
If nothing else, they are someone who know her well, have known her for a long time.
Yep.
And so it's not going to hurt to get their thoughts.
It is. And particularly if this is a relationship that does lead towards covenant, you're going to be marrying into that family. And you are going to set yourself up relationally for success with your future in-laws if you start out by inviting them into the relationship process and asking for their wisdom and asking for their counsel. That's not going to harm your future relationship with them.
Not at all.
Now, one of the other things that I think is important for men to understand is that it's okay to be rejected. And I would even argue it's actually important for men to experience rejection.
Yes. As a more narrow part of failure, men often learn from failure. That would be a whole separate discussion. But rejection can be a very important learning opportunity for a guy.
So many men today, I think, are so fearful of being rejected that they're like, I just won't even bother asking at all, because what if she says no? And we talked about this, in our risk episode, Life is Risky. But the reality is this: you will be okay, men, if you're rejected. Guess what? Life moves on. And men need to recognize that they're stronger than a woman just saying no to them. Like, oh my gosh, she said no to me. My life is over. No, what are you, Romeo? Get a life.
Yes. You're going to be better off no matter which way it plays out. She says yes, great. If she's uninterested, that's a great learning opportunity, and you're going to be better off long-term through that experience.
Yes, because what men will begin to realize is, like my countenance, my emotional maturity, who I am as a man is not defined by a woman saying no to me. I think about, I'm a musician, and, musicians, artists in particular, spend their lives basically in a world of rejection. They're constantly auditioning for stuff and being told no. They're constantly trying to get gigs and being told no. And they do get gigs and they're trying to get paid. It's hard. And no musician, no actor, no dancer is like, well, that's a reflection of who I am as a person. Therefore, I'm a terrible person because I didn't get this part, or I didn't get into this orchestra, or I didn't get this gig. No, you recognize, well, that's just kind of the culture that I'm in, that I've willingly put myself in. And same thing in relationships. Guess what's part of the culture of relationships? Rejection.
Yeah.
And that doesn't define who you are. You actually should grow from that.
And much like an actor in your case, I mean, fundamentally, you are selling the idea to the other person that you are worth it in some capacity. Like that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's not like this expectation that we're going to be together. It's like, hey, this is who I am. This is why I'm interesting. This is why I think we should work out, right? There's this element of selling yourself, selling the idea of who you are. And that's something that you might not be that good at. Now, if she turns you down, it could be you're just not her type.
Sure.
Or maybe there is a way that you came across that could use improving. And those, walk that out, figure that out.
Yeah.
Practice that and purpose to get better at it.
You know, I think about 1944. You've got young men, 18, 19, 20 years old, storming the beaches of Normandy, staring death down the barrel, you know, moving in bravely to lay down their lives for their country. And today, you have men who are afraid to ask a woman out on a date. I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, how far we have fallen. The fact that we went from very masculine men facing death to men too afraid to ask a woman on a date. And all these men are like, I just can't handle another rejection. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't handle another? How many rejections have you had? And if you've had that many, you're clearly really bad at what you're doing. You need to listen to our podcast and stop spending all your money on curating a romantic environment where there's so much pressure that she has to say yes, and she's creeped out because you're weird and says no, and you're like, I have no money and I can't handle the emotional distress of being rejected one more time. Like, well, it's because you're an idiot. Don't be an idiot. Go back and listen to our episode.
Don't be an idiot, and don't be disappointed by rejection. Realize it's an opportunity. Realize, okay, I can learn here.
Yes. It's weird because we talked about this in Life is Risky, the idea that men try to avoid, disappointment and rejection and failure, particularly relationally. And I think we just have to begin to equip men and challenge men that rejection is okay. And that's not defining of who you are, but it will define you if you let it.
Yes. It's baseline, I like what you said. It's baseline okay, or it's even beneficial.
Yes. And I would argue that men need to experience that more regularly because we have these posh, cushy, beta males out there who are like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to be emotionally hurt in any way. And I'm just going to go make an Instagram video talking about how women reject me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no one needs to be in a relationship with you ever. Thank God they rejected you. That was a blessing to them.
Go take chances. Be willing to get it wrong, to mess up. Again, we're not talking about messing up in a toward her, but sure, the situation didn't play out in the way that you had hoped.
Yep.
That's totally fine.
Totally fine.
Learn from what can be learned, and you move on.
Exactly. So as we close here, the homework this week is very, very simple. If you're interested in a woman and you haven't asked her out yet, do it today. It's literally that simple. Do it well. Don't be a creep about it. Everything we talked about, apply that, but do it today. Stop wasting time. Stop wasting your life away. Reach out to her, invite her out on that date, and who knows? Let's see where it goes. But do so in a way where she feels flattered and where you can walk away feeling respected. We appreciate you being with us today. We look forward to having you here next time where we will be conducting our very first interview.
Yes.
With a couple. Cannot wait for that to explore their story together. So have a great day, guys.